Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, agriculture workers to benefit from free movement under the CARICOM single market and economy. Prime Minister Sept invites Canada to play a greater leadership role in the region, and a strategy to address the EU's blacklisting of CARICOM countries as non-cooperative tax jurisdictions. The details coming up.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fence pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
First up in the news, pupils and staff of the Grand Bay Primary School are expected to benefit from a significant investment in upgrading the school structure. Andrea Louis reports.
The Canadian government is investing $9.2 million in upgrading 5 primary school structures around the island. The government of Canada established diplomatic ties with the Dominica in 1978. However, the Grand Bay Primary School was constructed by the Canadian government in 1971. Member of Parliament for the Grand Bay constituency, Justina says the entire community will benefit from the upgrades to the Grand Bay Primary School.
So I am happy that you will be doing the roof, you'll be doing windows, we will be paying attention to early childhood, because I am aware that the Ministry of Education is trying to merge or bring all those schools under one umbrella, so it will make life easier for our 3 preschools in the Grand Bay constituency, in the Grand Bay village. So early childhood education, our kitchen will be rehabilitated, and so we will have an effective home economics class with all of the amenities to make learning much conducive. And most importantly, it is my understanding too that at the end of everything that we can have adult education incorporated in some of the programs at the school. So it means therefore those of us who have left school and some people who probably want to come back and learn, the opportunity will be there for us to learn. So you will be also providing us with equipment to enhance the learning.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Development in Canada, Kamal Kera, says her government is committed to ensuring the safe learning of Dominican pupils.
Canada's newly announced support responds to the Government of Dominica's request to restore Grand Bay Primary and 4 other schools. We want to help with the safe learning environments for students, and of course to build resilient structures to students and of course the residents of Grand Bay. This effort will be delivered through our trusted partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank and the Ministry of Education of Dominica, in close collaboration with community stakeholders. The Caribbean Development Bank's wealth of expertise in education and infrastructure has been critical to the initial structural assessment of these schools and will be vital to the success of this project.
Minister for Education Peter Seja says following Hurricane Maria, government's focus is on developing resilient school structures.
We had to consider carefully how we approach the rebuilding process so that we could stay true to the national objective of making Dominica a resilient nation in face of increasing threats associated with climate change. I am happy to note that we have taken the early lead in the climate resilient thrust by focusing on building stronger and better physical structures, which our students can learn in safe spaces. Several schools are being reconstructed with more stringent building practices and safety codes designed to allow them to withstand disastrous events.
The other schools to benefit from the Canadian funds are the Dalis, W.S. Stevens, Mont Jean and Salisbury Primary Schools. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
Still in education, the Ministry of Education is reporting satisfaction with the rate of school repairs so far. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Chandler Hyacinth, explained that after Hurricane Maria, the school structure sustained a wide array of damage requiring minor repairs to complete renovation.
22 of our primary schools had major damage. That included complete collapse of buildings, complete or partial roof damage, damage to windows, doors, materials, and also equipment damage. 27 of our schools was so severely damaged they would require rehabilitation. 9 of our primary schools needed minor repairs and the cleaning of debris and silt. All our secondary schools needed rehabilitation. At least all our 7 government secondary schools. One of them has to be demolished and a brand new structure has to be built.
Hyacinth says almost a year after the Category 5 hurricane, the majority of schools have been receiving attention, although there is still a long way to go.
To date, as we are rehabilitating our schools, works have been completed at 6 schools. Work is presently in progress in 35 schools. Some of these areas are alternative sites that we are using for schools while reconstruction is going on at the main school. Works is still pending in about 13 schools, including the secondary school that we have to rebuild. It is a daunting task.
Hyacinth was addressing a ceremony to announce the Canadian government's support for 5 primary schools around the country.
Your contribution in this project, certainly the contribution of computer equipment and other equipment, new furniture, fencing of our properties, you will be contributing, you will be ensuring that we focus on our institutional resilience, protecting our sector investments, and resilience in our education systems.
In other news, CARICOM's Council of Ministers for Finance and Planning is prioritizing providing a safety net for borrowers and depositors within the region. The Council of Ministers for Finance and Planning, COFAP, which met in Barbados on Tuesday, has discussed a regional framework for a deposit insurance system. The idea would be to establish a level of protection for depositors against losses due to the failure of financial institutions. The meeting, chaired by Antigua and Barbados Prime Minister Gaston called for the urgent implementation of this deposit insurance system, which is particularly important considering the failure of BICO, CLICO, and other financial institutions in the region.
Even in the case of Antigua and Barbuda, we had perhaps one of the most spectacular bank failures, in which we had $1 billion enterprise, the Abibam Financial Group, that went belly up, and my government had to issue a deposit protection bond in the region of $350 million, representing almost 10% of our GDP. So having this type of protection is absolutely important. This is one of the measures which the Council agreed should be pursued within the Financial Cooperation Initiatives to enhance the financial safety net for depositors and even for borrowers and investors in the CARICOM single market and economy, the CSME.
The ministers also approved in principle the objectives of the CARICOM credit reporting policy. This provides for the regulation of the operations of credit bureaus and cross-border exchange of credit information within CARICOM.
Now, this is a very important initiative that will promote financial inclusion for CARICOM nationals as they live and work across the community. And evidently, it will facilitate greater accessibility to credit, and at the same time ensure that there is more borrowing to support increase economic growth and development and to create opportunities for people. In fact, it will also help to encourage greater entrepreneurship across the CARICOM space. So having this credit reporting policy and certainly a bureau in which we could exchange information freely in order to facilitate the smooth flow of credit within the region is absolutely important to the business development and certainly to economic growth and development.
Still with CARICOM's Council of Ministers for Finance and Planning, they're taking steps to address what they see as an existential threat to the region. CARICOM plans on making representation at the highest level regarding the negative impact of the EU's blacklisting of certain member states as non-cooperative tax jurisdictions. Antigua's Prime Minister chaired a meeting of CARICOM Finance and Planning Ministers in Barbados on Tuesday, where a plan to address that issue was laid out. They want a more collaborative approach between the European authorities and other relevant international bodies.
And we are seeking to dialogue with various bodies within the EU and individuals within the EU, obviously at the top political level, so that they can understand the consequences of the actions. I mean, the unilateral decisions that they would have taken that are now impacting on the region, especially in the context of the proposed sanctions and the blacklisting. So this is an issue that we are monitoring very closely, and we will work collectively. In fact, we are hoping that there will be certain interventions made within the next 30 days that hopefully will bring some relief to the various countries within the region to avert any potential blacklisting, or for that matter, any curtailment of technical support or grant aid from the European Union.
Public health specialist and social worker Dave Laudat believes a vagrancy project will remedy the problem posed by vagrants attacking law-abiding citizens. Just recently, local businessman Joseph Raful was hospitalized after a vagrant struck him in the face with a piece of wood. As a result of the unprovoked attack, Mr. Raful was admitted to the intensive care unit at the Princess Margaret Hospital. The consultant psychiatrist, Dr. Benjamin, has always advocated against confinement of the mentally ill. He believes those on medication could move about freely as it facilitates their reintroduction into society. Dr. Benjamin was unable to give Channel 5 News an interview, but recommended we speak with public health specialist and coordinator of the Vagrancy Project, Dave Laudat.
Prior to Hurricane Maria, the government did mandate the Ministry of Health, mandate the Department of Psychiatry to start off what we call the Vagrancy Project. It's a project where we have looked at the vagrancy problem, the impact it's having on the community, on our business community of individuals out there, particularly in Roseau, and to what extent we can do something about it. Well, we have come up with a project, and the government has invested money. The government has employed a social worker and a counselor, myself as the coordinator, and that project is run within the acute psychiatric unit. The intention is to identify the very disturbed vagrants in Roseau, persons who really need acute attention, to identify them and to find the legal means by which they are admitted to the psychiatric unit for treatment, and after bringing them to some point of sanity or wellness where they could respond to therapy, we would discharge them into what we call a day hospital, where they would come daily or at an assigned time for a program. So they will be doing a lot of activities of how to run their life, occupational therapy, to teach them how to manage out there in the community. Whilst we are doing that with them, there's another component to the project, our task would be to attempt to link these individuals to their families, to the community, and to also source the state resources to assist them.
Laudat says there are steps that can be taken in the short term to address the more immediate problems.
If persons are vagrants out there and they are harm to themselves or they're harm to the community, the police can intervene, or the family can intervene, the community can intervene. We all can intervene once we deem persons to be a threat to themselves and to pose difficulty or risk to others, we can intervene and seek to have these persons be seen by a general practitioner. Once a general practitioner sees that person and believes that the person needs psychiatric attention, that person is referred to the psychiatric unit, where the psychiatrist now makes the assessment and admit the person for treatment. So the mechanism is in place. They are not at large to themselves, and the law doesn't buy you, but you must follow the right procedure. You don't just take persons and bring them to the psychiatric unit. It doesn't happen that way. A general practitioner must see that person and make the referral to the psychiatric unit.
When Channel 5 News contacted the police on Thursday, we were told there were no new updates on the attack by the vagrant. You're watching Channel 5 News. Coming up, the minister responsible for youth affairs weighs in on the issue of gun violence.
When persons with TB sneeze or cough, healthy persons nearby breathe in the droplets and the bacteria can lodge in their lungs. People with weakened immune systems such as HIV/AIDS, alcohol and drug users, smokers, children, and the elderly are most susceptible. Persons with a cough should take precautions when in contact with persons in public places. Cover your mouth when sneezing and coughing. Visit your doctor or health center. You must complete your treatment. TB can be cured even with HIV. Be responsible. Help stop the spread of TB and HIV. Protect yourself and others.
Thank you for staying with us, expanding the categories of workers who may travel freely within the region. There are 10 categories currently, namely university graduates, media workers, sports persons, musicians, artists, managers, supervisors, and other service providers. Workers in these categories can now move freely to another member state and enjoy the same benefits and rights as regards condition of work and employment as those given to national workers. But Barbados' Prime Minister Mottley says the idea behind the inclusion of this new category has to do with food security.
We've agreed to recommend an 11th category of agricultural workers, primarily because we recognize the importance of being able to attain food security across the region, particularly in these difficult and turbulent times, and coming as we did last year after the realization of what the climate can do, what hurricanes can do, and now we see earthquakes to disrupt the whole production and distribution cycle. And we're conscious and sensitive to the fact that we have to be able to move the region closer to a level of food security in ways that we've not perhaps been as assiduous about doing in recent times.
There is also a recommendation which will go before the next special meeting of the Conference of CARICOM Heads in December to establish a CARICOM Law Reform Center. The December meeting will be dedicated to advancing the CARICOM single market and economy.
We recognize that there is a shortage of legal draftsmen in the region, and to that extent, if we can pool our resources to be able to have model laws and to be able to look at reform of laws in social and economic sectors in a way that at the national level we are constrained to do, then we can improve significantly the environment and landscape that our citizens will have to function in.
The Prime Minister of Antigua and Jamaica both believe that since the last CARICOM Heads meeting in Jamaica, there's been renewed energy for a more practical form of regional integration. Prime Minister Skerrit has assured a visiting representative of the Canadian government that Dominica is ready to support Canada at the highest level due to the country's friendship over the last 40 years. Addressing a visiting delegation from the Canadian High Commission in Barbados Wednesday, Prime Minister Skerrit noted that both countries had a similar worldview. Mr. Skerrit believes Canada could provide a certain level of leadership for Caribbean countries on important issues like climate change and climate resilience.
Canada can rely on Dominica being there with it on its national ambitions. We are members of the United Nations together. We are also members of the OAS together. And very critically too, we are of the same view in respect to climate change and the causes of climate change and what needs to be done to mitigate against climate change, and more importantly, to allow us to be able to withstand the ravages of the impact of the weather systems, because we in the Caribbean, we are the short end of the stick when it comes to the implications and impacts of climate change. And what I've said to our friends from Canada, because Canada has had a long history and tradition, it is almost part of the DNA, respect for the environment and a profound sense of social conscience. We believe that Canada can play a very important role in leading the charge of matters relating to climate change globally, especially for countries like ours, because of the shared experience, the shared relationship, and the shared history. But I believe Canada can play a very critical role in advancing our cause in the small island states, and we hope that Canada will continue to play that part. But certainly, as I said to my friend privately, I would like to see Canada be the messiah where climate change is concerned, and those of us in the Caribbean can be disciples in that regard.
The Prime Minister says because of Canada's view of world issues, it approaches things differently and has not adopted the high-handed or big-stick approach. He believes based on that, Canada's respect for people and nations, it should play a bigger role in political leadership and guidance in the region. And the Minister for Youth Affairs and Constituency Empowerment says she is concerned over the recent spate of gun violence in the country.
During the month of August alone, there were 4 known shooting incidents, 3 of which resulted in death. The Minister for Youth Affairs, Justina, says the increase in gun violence is not because of unemployment, as some suggest.
And some people want to relate it to probably lack of employment and other issues. And that, to me, I want to refute, because even now, and it is happening after Maria, when the employment is, there is a growing demand for people of various skills. And sometimes you go out and you ask young people to come, and some of them are not interested. Some of them look at you straight in the face and will tell you that is too much work for little money. They talk about not having sporting facilities. Sometimes some of the opposition and people who do not even understand, maybe do not even understand exactly what they say. They tend to say sometimes if we have sporting, but we have more sporting facilities now than we had before. And the level of crime before was minimal, and we did not have the amount of sporting facilities that we have. So really, what is the basis for making those kinds of statements?
Mrs. Charles believes society needs to come together and develop strategies to reduce such incidents of violence.
I think we need to revisit some of the things that are happening in our society and how every member of society can contribute to making a change. I think we need to reverence God more in our lives. We need to pay more attention to our prayer lives and encourage our own children. Bring up the children in the faith. Bring up our children understanding that God is the supreme leader of this country, of the world, and we really need to, as a country, to sit and strategize and to see how we can. Somehow it has to be addressed. We cannot allow it to get worse than it is now.
2 of the victims of last month's shootings were from the community of Grand Bay. Charles recalls vividly that she was in the process of assisting one with a project when she was surprised by the news of his death.
The one who died from Mountain, I spoke with him probably. In fact, I was doing something for him the Tuesday, and I sent it to him. And I asked them to tell him to return it to me the Wednesday morning. Only to find when I get into town, I'm seeing, police in town. I'm asking what is happening there. They tell me a young man. Only to find this is the very man that I was working with on something for him the day before, who had just gone. Young, strapped man who can make a positive contribution. But just that, sometimes we find ourselves in the wrong activity that can lead to those those senseless deaths.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001 275-5003 today.
To end the news, a look again at the headlines. Agriculture workers to benefit from free movement under the CARICOM single market and economy. Prime Minister Skerrit invites Canada to play a greater leadership role in the region, and a strategy to address the EU's blacklisting of CARICOM countries as non-cooperative tax jurisdictions. Feel free to contact us at news@mapping2k4.com. You can access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.